our internet's down, so they're going to need a few minutes to get the PowerPoints loaded onto a computer, but we can open once
And do the
once you
minutes.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we okay now, you think? You'll give me a... My mother used to say, if you're bored, twiddle. Hello, Mr. Jimenez. Good to see you.
All right, Leah, we're ready.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting of the Corpus Christi B Corporation to order, called Type B. Ms. Huerta, would you call the roll, please?
President Leah Olivari,
Present.
Vice President Alan Wilson,
Here.
Secretary Diana Summers,
Present.
Member Scott Harris, he is absent. Jesus Jimenez,
Present.
Robert Thames is absent. John Valls is absent. So we do have a quorum to conduct the meeting.
Yes, and some of the members, unfortunately, were not going to make it today, so they send their apologies. With that, is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment? I don't see any hands. Ms. Huerta, did we have anybody that signed up?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, are there any, I don't think we have any issues about excused absences this time. Are there any corrections to the minutes, or has anybody had a chance to look at, and do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's done. Do we have a finance report at the accounting? Change. You might introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, Alma Casas. I'm the Interim Director of Finance, and I will be presenting the financials for the Type B Corporation for the 7 months ended April 30th. We started the year beginning fund balance at $12.5 million, revenues year-to-date, $5.5 million, expenditures year-to-date, $861,000, and ending fund balance at April 30th is $17.2 million. I don't know if the...
Yeah, let me stop you just a second. Are we
Is
getting
it up there? No.
any?
They're having some issues with the PowerPoints.
Do they have it in front of them, though? Can they see? Oh,
You guys don't have it?
you have it in the books, though.
I have it in mine. I can kind of share. If you let us get to our phones
Okay.
and the devices, because we do get it.
Okay, does anybody need a book? I have a spare one. Everybody good?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Apologies to anybody watching, but it will be posted on the internet sometime soon, we hope.
So moving on, the expenditures as of April. In affordable housing, we had $10,213. Economic development was $830,076, and streets was $21,404. Affordable housing, we estimate at the end of the year we'll have $1.1 million. After we'll have infill, the agreements that we have already are the infill housing incentive program for $1 million, and the Alma at Greenwood for $1.1 million. Moving to economic
The
development.
presentation is up, Ms. Casas. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Do I? Will it?
You can advance it.
The presentation is now live.
Oh. Okay. There we go. So economic development, we estimate at the end of the year we'll have 12 million, and those are agreements that we have with South Texas Botanical Gardens. For 89,000, we have Next Sports Company LLC for 1.8 million, Temu CC Unmanned Aircraft, 3.5 million, and small business contracts of 446,000.
So basically, we have, the column you showed on the left is the committed funds, but some of those won't be paid out until
Future years.
2024,
Right.
2025, just
Yes.
clarifying.
Moving to streets, we anticipate at the end of the year we'll have $388,000, and we will have a transfer to streets for $4.1 million. Our sales tax revenue update. For the month of April, we did have an excess collections of $74,250. Overall, we have had revenues of $215,000 more than what we originally budgeted for revenues in sales tax. So we're doing really good. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board? My thing isn't not working. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Casas.
Thank you.
We don't have any executive session items at this time. Moving on to the agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action to amend the bylaws of the corporation to provide for automatic resignation of a director in the event of an excused absence.
Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the board. Amy Alcornette, Assistant City Attorney. I don't have a presentation on this. I do have a red line in your packet of a suggested policy that is just a mimic. It just mimics what the City Council has for the council boards and commissions. As we've looked at City Council policies, we've determined that their policy does not apply to this corporation as it is a separate entity. And for that reason, we're proposing that you guys adopt your own policy. If you wish to adopt a different policy, you're welcome to do so. Like I said, the one I provided is just what City Council has. So that creates an automatic vacancy in the event that a director misses 25% of the more than 25% of the regularly scheduled meetings, and those absences are not excused at the next meeting.
Mr. Wilson?
So that means you have to miss 4 to automatically resign.
We'd have to miss 4, and they'd have to all be unexcused.
Assuming there were 12 meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
More
It would be 3. It would be 3.
More than
More
25%,
right.
so
So
that
you'd
would
have
be
to miss
12.
Okay, so you could miss 3.
Right.
So I move we adopt the proposed amendment.
So let's finish with the comments first. Did you have a comment?
I just had some questions whether, do we need any guidelines around what is an excused absence or an unexcused absence, or is it just if the board decides that it's a sufficient enough reason to excuse them?
The way that we've handled the council policy in my time with the city has been that the board determines what qualifies as good cause, and the board makes that determination at the next meeting. They can excuse an absence for good cause if they find that it's good cause. If this board would like more guidelines, you're perfectly welcome to adopt some. I think we've generally considered like travel for business, good cause, illness, good cause, but maybe not necessarily, oh, I forgot that there was a meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Are you asking that we put some language in there about
I think it
examples of good cause?
just takes away
As
more of the
guidance.
gray area to have some guidelines for it. But, if that works for council and it's worked well, then I don't know that we need to have extra.
Okay.
One thing we could do if we find that there's confusion in the future, the amendment to the bylaws has to go to city council. You also have rules of procedure, and those do not have to go to city council. So if we find that we're having trouble, we could put something in the rules of procedure that states, what the board considers good cause and not, maybe sometime in the future if we're having problems.
So that was kind of to my question, is this could just be a rules and procedures. It does not have to be an amendment to the bylaws. The bylaws are silent on this issue.
The reason that I put this in the bylaws is because it creates a vacancy on the board. So it's about losing your board position if you don't attend. And that's why I put it in the bylaws. I think that requires a bylaw change and city council approval. However, defining what is and is not a good excuse potentially does not require a bylaw change. That could be a rules change.
I see your reasoning.
And this would go in effect for any absences going forward, correct? It can't be applied in arrears.
Correct. It would not be,
After the council approves it.
right, it would not apply until the bylaws have been amended,
Okay.
which is council approval.
Do we have any other bylaws amendments likely in the future here?
No, we last amended them, I want to say 3 years ago. It's been a while, and I didn't see anything else when I was looking through them. But of course, if we wanted to come back at another meeting, we had other changes, we could do that too instead of doing this now. I understand we don't want to change it multiple times in a short succession.
So I'm not sure how to deal with the situation that actually brought this all up. I'm not going to mention any names. But what happened was, let's say somebody had been absent once before, and then the way that was structured was that if they missed 2 meetings in a row, let's say they got ill then, later in the year, and they missed 2 meetings in a row, they couldn't come back and get both of those excused, even if it was for the same illness, was the interpretation. They could only go back to the meeting before. How have we dealt with that issue, if at all?
I did not deal with that issue in this drafting, if that's your question.
Is there something in the bylaws that specifically states that it has to be done at the next meeting?
It does. It says an absence shall be deemed unexcused unless excused by the board for good cause no later than its next meeting after the absence.
Couldn't we just strike those words?
We could, if you'd like to.
Or could we have the request come in a written form?
That's the other option I thought about.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do it any way this board wants to. You're not subject to the council policy.
I mean, I think if someone sent a written request to the president, then it could be
And the
presented.
city secretary or the attorney saying,
Right.
I request that my absence be excused, then the board could bring it up at the next meeting.
Well, and I think if they contact you, Madam President, and tell you, hey, I'm out because I have this appointment, or I'm traveling for business, or I'm in surgery, you could know that at the next meeting and propose excusing it whether they're there or not.
Okay. So here's what I'd like to suggest we do. If you would make that language change and bring this back to us next month, since we have 3 people missing, I'd like to get, I mean, it's not hurting anybody now because we have no policy. And then get it back and just see those, that wording change
Okay, so
about
you just wanna-
allowing for someone to submit in writing a request
Okay.
for it to be an excused absence and state what the reason is.
Yeah. All right, we can do that.
Anything else? Y'all saw? Okay, let's move along then. Next item is discussion and possible action to authorize a job training grant to Del Mar in the amount of $130,000 for the Cyber Center.
Good afternoon, Mike Culbertson from your Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation. I'm like the head guy now. It's kind of a little cool, but a little weird, a little scary. All right. We've been working and talking about small business since I started in 2009, and Mr. Thomas since 2004. And we really have been working hard on trying to find what we can do for small businesses and to make sure that the programs that we currently have are responsive and you get something, the small businesses get something out of the grants that you generously approve. I talked with Ann Farova, who's with me, and so is Lenora Keys, the COO, just one heartbeat away from the presidency. And Ann brought up, hey, we need cyber training. And just so you know, the Wall Street Journal thinks so too. They published this. It was an insert last week. It was very timely, and it talks about what we need and how it's becoming so important. For example, there are rules on the books now, but Congress has delayed implementing them due to cost for small businesses. And if you're a government one, you already have a lot of those. Exxon and Cheniere and all of those are going to be requiring them also. And God help you if you take payment over the internet. So I'm going to turn it over to Ann to really explain how this is going to work, and then we'll stand by for questions.
Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and talk to you today. My name is Ann Farova, Director of the Small Business Development Center at Del Mar College. And the Cyber Center kind of has been a little while in the works. We've been seeing a need for quite some time for businesses to have assistance in this arena. there's a lot of information, you hear a lot of noise out there, but when it comes down to who can explain what is my first step, what is my second step, what do I need to do to be compliant and protected, both my company, my employees, our customers' information, you know, how do we best approach becoming compliant, you know, in a way that's gonna protect all those things moving forward. And if you look out there, there's not a whole lot of, there's a lot of websites that you can start trolling through, but there's not an expert that you can just pick up the phone and say, okay, can you sit down and meet with me and help me assess where I am and give me a path moving forward so that we can start working towards compliance. And that's what this center is meant to do, is to be that initial point of contact to get businesses thinking about it, get them exposed to what different paths look like depending on who their ultimate customers are, who their suppliers are, kind of their role in the world of commerce, and then what might be required by all those customers and clients and everybody down the road. So we're working to put the cyber center together, hiring an in-house expert that has, you know, a good degree of knowledge in the IT arena. We currently don't have somebody with that background. And we'd like to build on that. So we want this as a starting place to say, okay, we have an in-house expert that can at least have a conversation with people, so they're not just being directed to a website. And they can start them on the initial protocols. There's like 121 hygiene protocols that they have to get started on, in addition to the CMMC requirements of the federal government, which is a much more involved cybersecurity requirement. Has 4 different levels, depending on, once again, what their role in the federal government arena is, determines what level they're determined to need. So we'd be helping folks work down that path as well, as far as we can get them with the money that's allocated, to be able to hire consultants to work with them one-on-one to develop that plan specifically. We're going to have to limit the number of hours we can actually allocate to any one customer to make sure we've given everybody a fair shake of having access to the services.
So you support, this board supports the SBDC, Small Business Development Center across from Ray, and a lot of things. So they will leverage that. They will, you know, they'll give them a desk, give them a place, give them a phone, you know, all of these things that they need. We actually, when we were talking about this, they came up with they're asked for 130 for 1 year, you know, just like the other small business ones, and it's on a calendar year. But they actually had to go back and take a look and see, could they get somebody for this amount of money? And the answer was no. So they came back and raised the amount. And I think that's very important that you don't just, you know, hey, we're going to, you know, actually there was a lot of thought that went into this. You could find yourself having the rules not really been applied yet, and then they apply, and then you don't have everything you need, you could have a contract go away, essentially. And it becomes very, very important as we go through this. I will tell you, my board, the Corpus Christi Regional Economic, while we do vote on large projects, we don't vote on small, but we did a presentation, and they wanted to vote, and they voted to recommend approval to this board for this grant. And stand by for questions. I know we're short here, so.
Mr. Jimenez, he's very experienced, so.
Oh, yeah.
Question or more of a comment. You know, I think the dollar amount that you're asking for, actually, I think you probably need more. So I'm in support of what you need right now. And I want to thank Delmar too for what you're doing, because you hit it right on. You know, the federal government's implementing all this guidelines and cybersecurity measures in order for you to actually just be able to do business with the government. So if you don't implement these measures, I mean, all these small businesses out there are going to be, you know, they're going to be dead on the water. We started, you know, luckily for me, or for my business, we do a lot of federal government, and we started implementing the cybersecurity model since like 3 years ago. You know, when it was like they were gonna look at like 25, the first phase was like 25, like points of interest rate. So like the first year, we hit like 40-some points. Right now, we're like 140, like, it's a huge checklist. And lucky for our business, I'm kind of a geek, so I get into that stuff, and I like to into the computer stuff. But I can see 95% of the small businesses out there being, it's, I mean, when you get into, I mean, you gotta like study and get into it. And like I said, I like the, before going for engineering, I was gonna go for computer science. So, I like that stuff. But I guess what I'm trying to say, just from my end, that I get into the stuff, at times it's difficult for me, so I can see it, extremely difficult for others. So I think the guidance that you're gonna be providing is gonna be key. The government, they've been delaying implementing the cybersecurity model, like in full, I guess, like in the entire deal for a while, but they are already implementing certain phases of it. So it's a great thing that you're doing. So I appreciate you all, and yeah, it's for the rest of the board. I mean, I don't really get into this stuff, but it's not simple, and it's tough out there. And then there's also small businesses that are going to be generated out of this need. So you're going to have all these new IT businesses and cybersecurity small businesses that are going to be generated to provide the need. Because when you go into a cybersecurity model, you have to hire one company to come and do, or a small business or a person that's certified to come and do the assessment of your computer system. And whatever their assessment yields, you have to hire a different company to implement those measures. So basically, like, one business is going to have to hire two companies, one to analyze and the other one to implement. So it's a whole new line of business also too for small businesses out there that are looking to get into it, the business.
Kind of the Sarbanes-Oxley of.
Yep.
I do want to make sure that we understand the ask today. Usually we come with we go into closed session for large ones, and we do that, and then we come back the next. But they're public, so we can't do that, and it's small business. So this is discussion, possible action, but you do not have to if you still have some questions done, or we can just get it done today. I just want to make sure you had
Do you
that
have
first.
anything? Sorry.
Sorry. You mentioned that you don't have anyone identified for the position. How long do you think that hiring process would take? How difficult do you think it'll be to find someone?
Well, I think we've allocated 3 months for that initiative, in hopes that we can get someone in the first round of advertising. We generally leave those positions open for 30 days. If we don't get a pool that yields somebody of the kind of quality we're looking for, we'll go and re-advertise again. And then hopefully in at least 2 rounds, we'll have found a candidate that we can work with, and then finish the process and get them on board.
Okay, so best case scenario, you would think this would be up and running in about 3 months?
About 3 months to get a person.
Okay. I guess one of my big things is just making sure the program's fully utilized, and you said you've had several requests. Can you kind of delve into that a little bit more? The amount of requests, how many businesses you think this will help service in a year?
Sure. Most of the requests come by way of our Apex clients, the people using the Apex Center for government contracting. However, our Apex Center staff don't have anybody with that expertise, and they also haven't been tasked by their grant to actually hold someone's hand and walk them through the whole process. Their grant has tasked them to make referrals to other resources to get help in that arena. So but we do have quite a few clients that are actively working in the federal government that are going to be affected by all these new, we really mean it now, rules that are already in place. So yeah, we have clients. The Apex Center has between 350 and 400 clients a year. SBDC on our side, we have between 500 and 600 clients a year we work with. And then the CRC is approaching about 100 clients a year as well. So we've got lots of businesses that we would market this to make sure they know the resources are available.
And so will we have some sort of reporting mechanism to see how many of those businesses are utilizing this program? kind of on an updated basis, because I think that's the big thing. We want to make sure the program is utilized.
Oh, yeah, we would do reporting just like we do for all of our other programs. We'd be tracking the number of clients coming in, the number of hours we've spent with them, any impacts that have been generated as a result of the assistance. So if they've, implemented so many protocols, that would be a ticky mark, that would be a milestone that we would track.
Okay. And then the $25,000 for the expert consulting hours, how would you allocate that per client? I mean, how are you going to ensure that not one client uses all the expert hours? I mean, that just seems like a very specialized for each business.
Right, we're initially going to be putting a cap of 15 hours per client on that particular resource. And we anticipate that the need is going to average out to about 7 hours per client that are going down that path.
Okay. And then are there any requirements with those expert hours that the client has some of their own investment in there? To make sure that they're being, those recommendations from the expert are being implemented. It's not just wasted.
Their investment's going to come after, they're no longer on our ticket. Once, we're going to take them so far in the hours that we have available under the guise of this grant, and then it's going to be on their ticket from there. But we're going to continue to stay in contact with them. They'll still be a client of the center, so they'll continue to work with the personnel throughout to the end of their process. It's just any future expert consultant needs they're going to have to pay for that.
Okay, but on the first part of it, they don't have to have any skin in the game. They could just decide that they don't want to move forward.
Well, I would anticipate we're going to be tracking all that very carefully. So if the program manager, determines, hey, they're missing appointments, they're not doing their homework, we would monitor that super closely. We'd just say, we've got other people lined up trying to use this resource. We're not going to waste it on someone who's not going to invest on their part.
And your metrics would continue to
Correct.
follow to see if they've implemented, I think, as well.
That's what I just want to make sure that those hours aren't they're not helping a business actually get to what they're, someone who's trying to implement the cybersecurity.
Mr. Wilson?
So recently, Madam President and I had the opportunity to tour
Gonna mention
the SBDC. Being a banker, I've known about the SBDC for years. I had no clue the depth and the quality of the services that you're providing. I see this as just an absolute natural to add because the world is evolving and cyber is real. All of us in business know that. And I gained a lot of confidence that they know what they're doing.
It's excellent. I'm sorry, more people, it was really impressive and very energetic. The only thing I would have to add is there are some folks around, even Mr. Jimenez, who's gone through it, or the city has considerable resources. When you get this person, I think it's important for them to get a little bit of understanding of, talk to some people about what's happening already, I know UTSA is a cybersecurity hub, whatever that means. So I guess that's fertile hunting ground for their student or something. I guess that's what it is. But as a part of this, you are planning to do maybe just some kind of general information. I know you educators, but a couple of sessions, maybe even for chamber members or others on what is cybersecurity and why you should be concerned about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have built into the proposal that you saw multiple training sessions, and that was just,
For a
very-
wider audience, not
Correct.
just your 900 people.
Correct.
But
And we
as
plan to
a
work
marketing tool, if you will.
Yeah, we plan to work through all of our resource partners that we partner with on a regular basis on lots of subjects. So this would just be one more that we'd get everybody talking the same message. Once the program is started, we'd have everybody telling all their clientele, their chamber members, their existing clients, whatever, that there's a resource for them.
We were
Thank you.
also talking about, when we were taking a look at this, where can we put it? So, Apex, which is PTAC, you probably know as PTAC, was a great place, but But what about people who don't have government contracts? They still have requirements. And then
Right.
what about CRC? And then it just became a thing where it needed to be standalone.
Right.
So. that's
So
why we-
what is what are we committing for 2023 budget, and what are we, nothing? She's shaking her head. That they want authorization to go ahead and recruit. So
Yeah,
they
they'll
need
do
to-
that. And then the grant starts January.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So no, it won't really be up and running until January?
No, but they need that part to make sure that they have everybody on board. But the grant will cover from January on.
I'm still confused. Are they going to hire somebody in 3 months?
Well, we'll see how long it takes them to get somebody.
Well, and I'm not sure what you're asking here. Are you looking at, like, us already advertising and trying to bring somebody on board October, November, December for
That's what I'm
live,
asking.
ready to roll in January, or
Right.
January,
That's what
February,
I'm asking.
March, ready to roll?
Because our budget is obviously not calendar year. Our budget begins October 1st.
But there are grants at Del Mar especially and Texas
know.
A&M that are calendar,
Yeah,
so,
So we're not gonna give any money until January.
correct.
okay. Got it.
The college, though, the college is prepared to start, we already have our advertising, our internal processes that we could front-load anything and get the process going
Okay,
as soon as we have authority to move forward.
okay.
Heather Holbert, interim assistant city manager. Just wanted to add on the budget, it would be up to the board's discretion. So we could, if the board would like to fund for that, again, we would propose to include it in the fiscal year '24 budget. If the board wanted to allow for a 3-month funding gap, they do normally operate off of a calendar year contract.
Correct.
But if the board does want to allow for additional funding to do that 3-month after the budget is adopted October 1, we could definitely do that and do a 15-month contract with them instead of a 12-month contract to get it
That's what I
started
was
sooner than
asking.
earlier. Yeah.
So right now,
That'd be great.
do we have a motion to include the $130,000 in the 2023-2024 budget, is what I'm hearing?
23, 24? Yeah. So moved.
Second?
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So basically, go forth if you,
Actually, go for it.
if you need a little, yeah, once you get started.
Thank
We're
you all
here.
very much.
Thank you.
We'll do the best.
Bye.
It will work very well.
Okay, moving on to item 5 quickly. We're running a little behind, so I'm going to speed these up.
Okay, Michael, come down.
Yes, very quickly, this is a motion to amend the reimbursement agreement with the Botanical and Nature Institute of South Texas, just to extend it to March 2031. Mr. Womack is here. We have heard that part of this was getting your grant money from the state.
Correct.
And so we're aware of that.
Right. We received the trail grant from Texas Parks and Wildlife for $200,000. Y'all are the required match. We had to have at least $50,000. Y'all are providing $89,000. We received the notification we were going to receive that in 2020 during COVID. We didn't get a contract till last April. One of the conditions of the contract was to have an archaeological survey and pull a permit. So we submitted requests for proposals to about 14, 15 different places last year. We got one in, and they wanted $50,000, which is like triple what I was told it should cost. So since then, we tried a couple other things, proposing entombment of the area where it's just putting everything on top. None of those seem to satisfy the initial discussions, so we've submitted everything back out. We've actually got 19 people that are in the process of completing their proposal that should be submitted by the 22nd. I have one in hand for $15,300, so at least it's in order what it's supposed to be. So, and they have informed me that they should be able to complete the survey before the end of August, because we want to start it in July, completed by the end of August. submit that to the Texas Historical Commission, and that we should be able to begin, assuming everything is approved, sometime in late October. Our trail, people that we've contacted to do the trail work said they did not expect it to take more than 3 or 4 weeks for them to complete that part of the project. So if we can get through all the
4
paperwork
years
up
to get
front,
there,
yes.
yeah.
So we think that the extension and doing the portion that y'all are funding up front, we'll definitely have it done before March the 31st.
That's it.
I move we approve the amendment
Do I have a
to
second?
extend.
Second.
All those in favor, I have a motion to approve the extension to March 31st. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
y'all very
Walnut.
much. We really appreciate all y'all do.
Number 6 is a reimbursement agreement with, to authorize an amendment to the reimbursement agreement with New Sports Company to extend the performance deadline of Phase 1 to December 31st, 24th. Hello, Doctor. Again, I think we're aware, Mike Culbertson has kept us well aware of, we've gotten information, so know you've had some challenges, but here you're underway. So is there any questions of the good doctor?
I move we approve.
You did get all the permitting, the drainage, all of that has been through planning and development. Wasn't that one of the big hurdles?
That's right.
Yes,
We
we did.
we finally got that about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's great news. Okay, thank you.
And I hear you, they have a contractor, so they'll be starting.
Yes.
So. Okay, I have a motion and a second to amend, to allow the extension.
Who seconded? Did
I'll
you?
second it.
Huh?
Madam President, I have an amendment to our motion.
Oh.
There's a typo on the motion. It should be next sports complex, not new sports
Yes,
complex.
yes, next board, okay. So,
Sorry about that.
correction, the motion is to amend the reimbursement agreement with Next, NEXT Sports Company LLC to extend the performance deadline of Phase 1 from November 30th to December 31st, 2024, and the completion deadline is now August 31st, 2026. For Phase 2, yes. Okay, we had a motion, we approved it, or did we get a motion? And
We got a
didn't
motion
vote.
and a second.
need
You
to
hadn't
do both.
voted.
Yeah, all those in favor
On the amendment?
of, well,
Did
I
we do
think the corrected is what it is, right? Is it amended or corrected?
I think we can just do it
One time.
administratively, yeah.
Yes,
Just
it's-
since you
it's-
noted it for the record, I think it's
It's
fine.
a typographical correction. Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Why
you.
don't we stop there, if that's okay, Mr. Houlihan, and move to the type A? Is that all right with you? You're going to be here no matter what, and then we'll, so what I would like is a motion to, you don't want to do that?
We
Well,
don't-
because we have to open that meeting formally. Yeah, we're still, are you going to adjourn this one?
Yes, I was going to adjourn
Yeah,
this.
go ahead and adjourn, and then we can open the other meeting.
Are we recessing or adjourning?
We're just recessing,
Oh, we're gonna
or
recess.
adjourning this meeting until we complete the type A.
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
We did that a number
I
of times.
know. And
Oh, we're not
we've
supposed-
since analyzed the rules on time, and we're close enough. We can go ahead and
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Okay, you're back. Good to see you.
I'll be brief. Good to see you. Good to see the board members here. Eddie Houlihan with the Office of Management and Budget. I'm going to go over the B proposed budget. He's going to pass that out. It was in your packet, but
Let me make a statement for anybody. Never mind, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
yeah, she's passing out the PowerPoint that was
Thank you.
included.
I think I have it. It's the one in the packet. I don't know if it's been changed. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the type B, the city account for this area in 3 separate funds: the economic development, housing, and streets. So I'm on the second slide here. So this is the overview of the economic development area. You can see that going from left to right, it's the actuals in 22. These are audited numbers. the 23 budget and the estimate, and then the proposed 2024 budget. So from a very high level, we ended 2022 with almost $10 million. The FY23 estimate, we expect to end the year FY23 with 12.4 million. And then moving to proposed 24 budget with revenues of 4.7 and expenditures of 2.9, we expect to end FY24 with a little over 14.3 million. The next slides are just some detail of those areas. First slide is revenue.
So, Mr. Houlihan, the slides aren't up? If somebody's trying to follow you,
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. You can continue. Ben.
Okay, so in the revenue area, most of the revenues are, of course, the sales tax. In this area is 50% of the 1/8 cent sales tax for the Type B. So the sales tax anticipated in FY24 to be 4.4 million, a little over 2% from the FY23 estimate. We think is a conservative number. And then a little bit of interest income of 325,000. So the total proposed revenue for FY24, 4,773,000. Here we go.
There we go.
Here we go. Okay, so I'll just move on to the next slide. Maybe. So this is some additional detail in the expenditures. So these are the major areas in the Type B economic development. You can see economic development, which we've been paying for several years now. That's part of the Regional Economic Development Corporation funding of 125,000. Major business incentives of $1,590,000. Small business projects of $1,018,500. I'm going to give some more detail of this in a second here. And then a little admin of 10,000. Type B incentives, which is the botanical gardens of the 89,000 that was budgeted in 23 and not anticipated to be expended until 24. And then for the general fund administrative full cost plan, a little over 68,000. And then there's no transfer to any CIP funding for FY24. Some additional detail here. So the major business incentives includes the next sports complex of $1,200,000, and then the Texas A&M drone program of $1,390,000 total, and so the total of $1,590,000 budgeted for 24.
I'm confused about that. Isn't it 2.5?
Oh, Lord.
Million here, a million there.
It sure is, yeah. We'll need to make that correction. I think we'll need to make that correction for FY24. Yes.
Yeah, we have a question regarding next week.
So we just amended the completion dates on next sports complex. So is the $1.2 million the right number for this coming year? It is?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it'll be 2025. It'll be the budget year 2025, won't it, Heather?
So based off of their build-out schedule, we think that we will pay it out to them in 24, even though they have to 25 to complete it. If we don't pay, if we were to push it to
Okay.
25 and then we had to pay it in 24, that's a problem. So if we budget for it in 24, we don't pay it off, we just move it to the next
Okay,
year.
thank you.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
All right, moving into the small business projects listed here, totaling $1,018,500. The
I just want to mention something, Mr. Hewler. I'm sorry to keep stopping
no,
you,
of
but
course.
because of that change to 2.5, I also think it affects page 4 and the bottom line.
yes, correct.
So we've
That's
got some
correct.
changes we'll need to see that,
Right.
or the $1 million changes, right?
We'll make that change, and
Thank you.
when we come back next month, that change will be in the program. So the small business projects, the A&M internship program of 100,000, the Delmore internship program of 100,000, Delmore Apex 105, the Delmore College Contacting Resource Center of 150,000, the Delmore also, the Small Business Development Center of 150, the Lift Fund of 200, the score of the 83,500, and the item that we just discussed, the Delmore Cyber Center, 130,000, totaling $1,018,500 for that area.
I have
Yeah,
a couple
you have a
questions.
question?
I know we've had some questions over the utilizations of the internship programs in the past. This is showing both of those programs were fully, or estimated to be fully utilized. Do we have an update on how those programs are performing so far?
Actually,
Leslie Mills with A&M Corpus Christi. I'm the director for the Career and Professional Development Center. Last year, we had requested to increase the minimum amount we were paying the interns as well to hope to fill the more positions. And so I'm excited to say that it worked. And so as of this year, we have already spent over half of our $100,000 that was given to us just in the spring semester. So we've seen an increase in interns and the number of hours the interns are working. So what that means for us is the interns, we were having trouble getting those interns in place in a timely manner. And so those interns now are starting at the beginning of the semester because they are filling those positions at a higher rate. And so they're filling out the entire semester and working their entire semester worth of hours. And so we are on projection. We increased the program from last year, from Q1 to Q2, this current quarter we just finished, by 27%. And we have, unfortunately, employers we've had to turn away right now and put on hold to post those positions and get those positions filled unless we get the additional funding. So it worked what we had hoped, but now we're at a point where we've utilized most of the funds.
Okay, that's great news.
Yeah.
Are we seeing, I know in the past, some of the employers were concentrated in a certain set of industries. Are we seeing any broadening of those industry
Yeah,
mixes?
I think we've been pretty broad across all of our, right now, the interns for this spring represented 14 different industries, from accounting, advertising and PR, childcare, education, government agencies, and then financial services and education services. And the government agencies were like the chamber because they help support small businesses.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
Are we on calendar contract with y'all too?
Correct.
Okay, so we're not even halfway into your contract year and you're over half? Okay.
Correct.
Question I had is, did we amend the budget to 150,000? I don't remember that.
It went from 150 the previous years to 100 this last year, and so now we're
Yeah,
at 100.
that's not-
and
That's
we've
not what this is showing, though. That's why.
So I've requested to go back to 150 for next year, since we have spent our 50.
That's not what this is showing.
This is showing one.
This is showing that we went to 150. I thought we were at 100. And 100 and 100. I understand she requested 150. We had more.
So the 150,516 reflects also the amount that was rolled over from the prior year due to that 3-month, we always have that 3-month gap because of the
Okay.
calendar year versus fiscal year. So the 150,516 includes the rollover from the prior year. Mike just brought it to my attention that yes, the Texas A&M did request 150,000, not 100,000. And so we will update that for next meeting to pull that in there. So we apologize for that. We had a lot of moving pieces on this.
So I guess going back to Ms. Summers' point, though, when you say you've done X amount, is that of the 150 or the 100? Because
That-
we were like at 65 or 75 the year before, which is why we
Correct.
dropped it. Yes.
Correct. And so far, just in spring, we've spent 54,000. There's been updates since the document I sent to Mike, but we were at 51,000 when I sent this to him. We're now at 54,000 that's been spent. And so that was just through May. And so that was of the 100. And so now we're having to turn employers away unless we can get additional funds for the remainder of this year, and then request increase to 150 next year.
Yeah, so I think, my personal opinion is when this comes back, we need to see a little bit more about whether we want to go to 150 or not.
Yes, I would agree.
Because, I mean, summer is summer, you know, I mean, I don't know whether you're more subscribed, but.
I can share right now, we have an estimated, right now we have 19 confirmed interns working. We have positions for 9 that are additional ones that are being recruited, so total, we would be a little less. So our estimated funding would be around 40,000 for summer needs, our funding needs for summer. But at fall, what we're projected to be at would be similar to what we looked at spending for spring. So
Well,
right
that's
now,
140,000, not 150,000, right?
we've spent 54. And so we have other employers that we've had to put on hold and not allowed to join the program just because of the lack of funds right now. So we've kind of stopped advertising for a little bit just because we didn't want to advertise a program that we can't fund.
So at the current pace, after summer, you still have the fall because you're on a calendar year.
Correct.
Your estimates are you're not going to have enough, 100,000 is not going to be enough.
Correct. Our estimates is we need additional 50,000 for spring, fall.
Okay, this will be coming back to us. Any other questions? Delmar?
And
Yeah.
we're on track similarly. The bump in the hourly rate for the students really got the students engaging again. And so we are also on track. We're ahead of schedule. If we just maintain the number of interns right now through the end of the year, we'll be oversubscribed as well. Not to the degree that you guys are. We're within 10,000 of being oversubscribed. If we roll on as many as we roll off when they graduate, essentially, is the dynamic that we just don't know.
Okay.
In previous meetings, we've gotten an update on which businesses or what industries were being served and, you know, kind of where we were dollar amount wise. I think that's really helpful when, especially at looking at an increase, seeing if we're reaching new industries within the area or especially industries that are maybe underserved. So that would be helpful information going forward.
And I had forwarded a document to Mike. Mike may be able to forward it to you all, the document.
I think that's
Okay.
for y'all. You're off the hot
Yeah.
seat.
Moving into the Type B incentives area, this is the Botanical Gardens of 89,000.
Oh, wait,
So-
before we leave that previous page, we skipped over lift fund. That's a 100% increase.
Good.
Good afternoon. Thank you for driving in.
Thank you for having me.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Michael Coulter. I'm the Chief Lending Officer for Lift Fund. You might have been familiar with some of my predecessors. I filled this position at Lift Fund in September of last year.
And Laura?
Good afternoon, Laura Leal Estrada, Lift Fund Market Manager here at the Del Mar Center for Economic Development.
Thank you. So I guess I'm questioning whether that's a significant increase.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, we're aware that is a 100% increase over what we requested for this last fiscal year. We pretty well exhausted the funds that we received for the last fiscal year. We think we have about 27,000 left. Based on what's in our current lending pipelines, we should exhaust that well before the fiscal year ends. So the reason that we're asking for the increase is because I've made the decision to make some considerable investments on Lift Fund's behalf in the city of Corpus Christi. Not only for the buy down program that we have historically done with y'all since 2014, but also the sizable investment that the city has made in the Dream Makers Fund for Lift Fund. So in the past, the priorities might have been arranged otherwise, but going forward, our priority in the city of Corpus is to make sure we're good stewards of the Dream Maker Fund and the buy down fund that the city has historically invested with us. So some of the things that we're going to be doing in the market is I am currently hiring a second FTE to assist Laura, because I think we're running her ragged around the city. I know when I came down here and visited her a couple of months ago, I think I saw the city 3 times in 2 days. We went and visited multiple partners, and she was great in kind of illustrating her commitment to the community. So we want to add someone to help Laura out here in the Corpus market. So we're currently hiring for that. I've also approved a $20,000 investment for advertising, specifically in the Corpus market. Right now, we've got about 15,000 of that already spoken for between digital, doing some mailers out in the community for the Dream Maker Fund, and canvassers. So we're going to put some canvassers out in the market to talk about that Dream Maker Fund as well. And then, of course, Roland just joined our board, so we just put out the press release for that. And I've started working with Mike to get in contact with the marketing group in the city. So just in the past, we've had a lot of success with these buy downs when we market in conjunction with the city through press releases and things of those natures. So we want to implement the same thing here in Corpus. So with those investments and at the pace that Laura's been able to move the current buy down fund we've been using, we believe we can move a larger sum of money, $200,000, for the next fiscal year.
How many more businesses do you think you'll serve or
So-
expect to serve with all of those initiatives?
Yep. So, well, just with that buy down of that amount, you're looking at between 45 and 55 businesses. So roughly double. The average loan size has been roughly $17,000 historically per borrower. With the Dream Maker Fund, I mean, that's a much larger fund. So if you're talking about the Dream Maker Fund as a whole, it'd be a lot more. That's a much larger investment on part of the city. So I think it's about 1.2 million we have left in there.
Any other questions, thoughts? Mr. Wilson?
So the money that comes from us is still going to be for the buy down program and for hooking up with the Dream Makers Fund?
It can be used in that conjunction. Yeah, I mean, the grant allows for both to be used in conjunction if we chose to do that. Yeah.
But just to be clear, the other investments you're making, marketing, stuff like that, it's not coming from.
No. That's Lift Fund money. Yes, sir.
Got it.
We're just like a piece of the big pie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the current grants don't allow us to utilize that funding in that way. It has to be 100% lent out in the community.
And just for the board's knowledge, the Dream Maker Fund was actually funded by the city, not by this board.
Yes, we were aware of that. And apparently it's getting good reviews. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not taking action today, unfortunately.
Okay, I'll jump forward here to the, there's the B incentives for the botanical gardens of 89,000. And then this is the area, I think that board has, this has been discussed about a dedicated position within the economic development to assist the business? No? Okay.
This has been discussed in the sense that there has been problems associated with small businesses getting permits, but the board has not discussed
Okay.
this, so
Okay.
we may need a little more detail.
I'll let, you have questions, I'll let Heather speak to this, to assist the businesses with the development services process.
So after the discussion, this came up a couple of times with the discussions with the board. And then also as we did our due diligence and talking with some of the SBDC, Laura at the Lift Makers Fund, at Lift Fund, we're talking about Dream Makers, Lift Makers, the Lift Fund, along with some of our other small business partners, that this is a recurring theme, is that the small businesses having challenges and some larger businesses trying to navigate their way through the development services process for any type of construction or improvement that they're doing to their businesses. We've also received feedback in the fact that, not only is it causes frustration, but also it costs small business money in the fact that it can cause delays in them getting their businesses up and running. So our proposal is to have I think we have 150,000 that would be allocated, up to 150,000. If the board does approve that included in the budget, what we would then the Economic Development Department would work on a job description and then responsibilities for this position, and then bring it forward for hiring. The 150,000 would be fully loaded for salary, benefits, along with that first year would be a little bit higher because we would have to do computers, furniture, that kind of stuff to try to get that position hired and in place. This position would be housed within the Economic Development Department. And would be a liaison, probably most likely somebody that had a background or had experience in construction and or a former development service employee, someone who has that knowledge to be able to help small businesses navigate through that process and be their advocate and liaison. So that is what we're proposing.
Mr. Wilson.
So as a banker for years and years and years, I have heard complaints, especially by small businesses that are not churning
Exactly.
developments over and over.
Yes.
And are not familiar. You probably asked the doctor on the soccer field, understanding the process, having somebody that you can go to, kind of like the liaison on cyber
Yes.
at SBDC, I think is a critical need in our community.
Yeah, we've heard that it's the same English but different, and so it's just a different terminology, not understanding what that process is if you don't do it on a daily basis, or even if you have never done it before, is what we've received a lot of feedback on.
Ms. Summer?
So sorry. This liaison, would they be available to all businesses trying to do anything through?
Yeah, we would have to look to see if there's a certain size, because, small business can be up to, small business is everything but really big industrial, really and truly. So small to big, medium businesses. So yes, if people needed assistance, they could contact the Economic Development Department and be able to utilize that resource.
And what kind of performance measures would be around this? Are we looking to set a certain time frame for projects to get through approved? I just feel like there needs to be some performance measures with this, because
Sure.
I think that's been
Yeah, I think it would have to do, we would have to, that would be part of us getting that job description together and understanding what those performance matrices would be. We can base it off of how many people they helped, how many customers they helped through, but that would also be dependent on how many customers actually, came and asked for assistance. We can look to see how long the process, takes, how long does it take them to get through that process? Possibly, how many times they had to go back for amendments or for reanalysis with development services, things along those lines, showing those efficiencies gained by having somebody to guide them through the process.
And I know there's been some improvements there. We've experienced them. I think one big frustration or one pain point has been not everyone has always been in the room that needs to be in the room. Yes. And so then you have to pay to go back. And not only that, your project is delayed. And, in the past couple years in this COVID economic time, that's just been costs escalating, or if you already own something that you're paying interest on. So I feel like we do have to have very big performance measures on the time frame that projects are getting through, because I have heard that from people who aren't as well versed with development services that sometimes it can be a year, sometimes longer, as we have seen, so.
And to your point, I think that is a very good thing to keep in consideration. What I would caution, though, is that this person would not be the end-all, be-all to solve all problems. Some of this is still going to have to be going through refining that development services process. And so while this position can help get those through, to your point, if the right people aren't in the rooms on the development services side, and that's, another process that they are trying to improve, this person is not going to be able to change some of that, so.
And is the thought that this person would also provide some sort of guidance of what needs to be a part of a submittal? Because
Yes.
some small businesses, they have no idea where to start with what they need to turn in, what sort of engineers they
Yes.
need to engage. And so, they sometimes are having to go back multiple times because they just don't know.
Exactly, and that's a lot of the feedback that we got, is that just they would go in and not knowing where to even start. So this would be a point of, kind of from the very beginning, sitting down and saying, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? Whether it's just some light plumbing or maybe it's a whole construction or something like that. These are the people, not necessarily we wouldn't refer specific contractors, but you may need to get in touch with a master plumber, you may need to get in touch with a master electrician, or maybe you need to engage a general contractor, but walking them through what the guidelines are, who they need to contact, having somebody at development services that we work specifically with, helping them, being there for those consultations as they walk through that, helping them understand. I know a lot of what we've run into is just understanding what that development code means, and what the building standards are, and helping them understand that.
And so you think with this amount, you can recruit someone for this position?
We hope so. This is, we're hoping so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So here's my concern. I went back and looked at the development services budget, and I guess I'd ask the very able city manager. We've significantly increased the number of employees in development services. And I guess I'm struggling with, why isn't this just the fundamental activity of development services? It's not saying that there's not a huge need, but it seems like to me to be business friendly. I was made aware of an email where basically the small business, very small business, already had a loan, trying to get their stuff, was told, you just need to go hire an engineer to get this solved. That's not going to be a solution for these small guys.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to find that person that can be the translator for all these incredible, the whole thing, and have them respond. I'm just concerned about that. Certainly we could try it because it's a need, but maybe Mr. Zanoni has some thoughts on this.
Right. Thank you, Chair. It's not unusual, and where I came from in San Antonio, we refer to them as ombudsmen.
Yeah.
So it's common in the business. They don't have to be an expert. They just need to know who to call, who to contact in the department, and help the small business. And as one of our board members, Ms. Summers, just said, things have improved with that increasing staff load. But I think this position will be for those real novice, first-time small business persons that really don't know much about development services at all. So we do have services that help the common developer. We do roundtable meetings, the development assist meetings, I think is as they call them, as the project begins. But this is to help somebody that is a small business person, probably has never developed anything before, and is really green to the process. And it makes sense to have the type B funds, economic development funds, pay for this service.
So basically, though, what we're saying then is we are targeting at new businesses,
Right.
New business owners. We're not just there, because I'm
Right.
afraid this
Or it could be an
position would
existing
get
business.
inundated.
Right. It could be an existing business owner that hasn't done anything to their property.
The same scale, yeah.
And they want to add an addition or something where they need a permit, and they just don't even know where to begin.
Yes.
The person could also probably help in contractors that are, we do some type of a certification process today or recognition process, so they could even begin there. with businesses.
Here's master plumber's list, here's
Right, to say,
yeah.
right, here's our preferred list. There's kind of like a gold star standard that we're giving now based on certain things. So it could be to include that as well. Because we do have the services, as Ms. Summer can tell you today, these early assist meetings, and that's built into the fees, and actually I think they pay for
Yeah,
some
but
of
I've
those
heard that
meetings.
even with a homeowner that goes in,
Right.
they're told, no, that's not available to you.
It could be that too. We could help the homeowner with this project as well. Yeah.
Let's see how this goes.
Right.
But, I mean, I just worry that we're not trying to take on the job of development services, you know,
No.
they have.
No, well, it'd be a position in there, right.
It'll be sort of tender, and then, you know, the other thing is one department paying attention to what another department says, which
Yeah.
is always, you're
this-
gonna have to give it a lot of clout,
Yeah,
Mr.
this
City
posi-
Manager.
Well, this position would be in the department, right?
In the
It would be
economic
in the-
development, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful if we could develop some performance measurements for this.
Sure.
I mean,
Give us a little more.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the target
Sure,
market?
sure.
What exactly do we think they're gonna be
I think
helpful
we work with development services on a regular basis, and so kind of understand the process, but I hear from all sorts of people throughout the community. I don't even know where to start. My project has been there for months. And so I don't disagree that this is probably a useful tool for small businesses, but I think, I'd like to see some performance measurements to make sure it's being utilized, that we're seeing improvements, that it's not just pushing other projects around.
Yeah.
I think if we can get businesses coming in with more complete, proposals for development services, maybe the whole thing will come, clear up a little bit, but yeah.
And we'll definitely do that. So we wanted to bring this forward to see if there's even an appetite
Right.
for it. And now that there has, you have given, said that yes, is something you'd like to consider, we can definitely, we just didn't want to put a lot of work into it if it wasn't going to be an option, so.
It's definitely a need.
Okay.
For sure.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, I'll transition into the housing area of the B. So this area is $500,000 in revenue of sales tax. The additional amount there is a little bit of interest. And then I got some detail on the expenditures. So the housing area ended FY22 with $1.7 million in fund balance. And the estimate in '23, expect to end fiscal year '23 with a little over $2 million in fund balance. And then spending in FY24, the current proposed budget is spending the lion's share of that, so reducing the fund balance down to $51,000. There's just the revenue, $500,000 in sales tax, a little bit of interest income for the total of $556,179. And then expenditures, affordable housing projects of $2.5 million, no infill housing in the proposed '24 budget, a little small amount of administration of $10,000, and then the full cost plan general fund support of $32,565. And here's the little detail on the affordable, a little more detail on the affordable housing projects. $1,308,129 in
Excuse me
affordable
one
housing
second, we have
projects.
a question.
Okay.
I was going to ask a question about that number, so good timing.
Okay.
So you're proposing to spend $2.5 million when we've been a bunch less than that. I understand we have Alma at Greenwood in the year, but the affordable housing projects at $1.3 million, do you have something identified, or is that just hoping that we're going to do more?
So we do have some tentative things right now. There is some, we've been working with the Ed Rochelle Foundation and have identified some land that we're looking to hopefully do some master planning on, and looking at some projects that would be eligible to be able to utilize, and we could put this money to work. We're still very tentative in that right now, and there's not something I don't have anything ready to bring forward to the board, but we would like to go ahead and move forward with having this budgeted so that we can bring forward this plan as we go.
So it's not just a pure shot in the dark. You've got
No.
some ideas.
We
Okay.
do have some ideas.
It was
so.
just a lot bigger. I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that is the infill housing incentive, which we not proposing any expenditures in '24 for that particular area. And then moving on to the street area of economic development, this area receives the revenue of the remainder of after the 50% is taken out for economic development, and then the 500 for the housing. So the total revenue projected in FY '24, $3,951,000, and total expenditures of $4,384,000. And this is, we're using all of the fund balance that we have available in this area, because we all know we need street work. So jumping into this again.
Let me make a note on that. We really don't, you're kind enough to bring us the financials on that, but those decisions are made by staff and the city council.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
I keep
Not-
saying that, so
yeah,
that my phone
absolutely.
doesn't ring.
Right, yeah, and it may be for the FY '24, we do have a list of industrial-type roads that we identified with the city council in our budget goal-setting session. But two of the prior funded projects now are going to construction, and we know that costs have escalated, so we may be using some of this to cover that escalated pricing now. That would be for Elizabeth Street by the hospital, by Spahn Hospital, as well as the industrial park in City Council District 5 off Rodfield.
Off of close to
Yorktown.
Billwood Park?
Yeah, off Yorktown, close to Billwood Park, so. And then we hope to use the remainder for another project.
You'll let us know what that
Yes,
is
we
once you
will.
presented it.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
So just the detail of the revenue sales tax of $3,951,000 proposed in '24, 947, excuse me, and then a small amount of interest income of $4,000 for the total revenue of $3,951,000. And a little more detail on the expenditure area. Administrative, $10,000, the full cost plan or general fund administrative support of $47,304. And then, as the city manager mentioned, the transfer to CIP in FY '24, $4,327,000. So the original, back in FY '22, the $1,000,002 is for the Elizabeth Street, and then the $4,149,000 is for the industrial area close to Bill Witt off of Yorktown, which those projects are not complete yet, so some of this proposed money in '24 maybe needed to finish those projects. I believe that's all I have. We'll make sure that we get those changes in, discussed today, and bring more information on all the items that were discussed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, with that, we'll move along to the executive director's comments. Mr. Zanoni, do you have a report?
Just that, as you can see, we're in the budget development process, so we're working with all the departments right now to develop our total budget, which this year is 1.3, or I think 1.4 billion actually, right, the current year? 1.4 billion, so we expect it to be in that range again. So we appreciate your attention today, and we'll bring back the final budget at our next meeting for this type A and B.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
With
welcome.
that, if there's no further business, I'll call this meeting adjourned, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the type A. For those of you who thought we'd never get there. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Corpus Christi Business and Job Development Corporation, Type A Corporation, to order. Ms. Huerta, would you please call the roll?
President Leah Oliveri,
Present.
Vice President Alan Wilson,
Here.
Secretary Diana Summers.
Present.
Board member Scott Harris is absent. Jesus Jimenez.
Present.
Robert Thamez is absent. John Valls is absent. We do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment? I don't see anybody. Ms. Huerta, have you received any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion carries. Financial report.
Good afternoon. Heather Hurlbert, Interim Assistant City Manager. I'm stepping in for Alma Casas. She had to step out, unfortunately, so I'll be presenting the financials. Maybe. I don't know if they're going to bring it up. If y'all okay if I go ahead and walk through them?
I've got a book.
Okay. So we'll begin with the Seawall Fund. So this is for the financial position, ended 7 months for April 30th, 2023. Oh. No, that's not the right one. Yeah, it'd be the PowerPoint. There we go. No, that's the proposed budget. There should be one more. Should be item number 2. There we go. Okay, third time's a charm. Okay, we've got the Seawall Fund. So we had a beginning fund balance at the beginning of 23 of about $20.1 million. Our revenues year to date are $5.6, almost $5.7 million. Expenditures year to date are $2.8 million, leaving an ending fund balance as of April 30th of $22.9 million. So looking at our Seawall Fund, we have $50.3 million budgeted in our Seawall Fund, and of that, 14.7 has been expended. Many of these projects are nearing closeout, and then we have some, even though there have been nothing spent year to date, a lot of these are about to be awarded for design, so we'll see more activity on a lot of these projects. So moving into the Arena Fund, our beginning fund balance as of the beginning of the fiscal year is $15.6 million. Revenues year to date are $5.5. Expenditures year to date are $800,000. And our ending fund balance as of April 30th is $20.3 million. So moving into the Economic Development Fund, this fund is no longer receiving funding. That 1/8 cents moved over to our Type B. And so these are just paying out the remaining projects that had been awarded. So we began the fiscal year with a fund balance of $1.7 million. Our revenues year to date are $41,000, which is interest earnings. Our expenditures year to date are $382,000, leaving an ending fund balance of $1.4 million at the end of April 30th. There are outstanding commitments of about $1.3 million, which leaves an available fund balance of $82,000. Of that, $10,000 is for affordable housing, and $72.9 million is for future economic development. So looking at our affordable housing, we have 3 different commitments that are out there. We have determined that we don't feel like we'll be paying out any of these within 23, and they will be budgeted in the 24 budget. Moving into our major, sure.
The fish pond development, we're close, aren't we?
That is my understanding. We are close.
I had heard July or August.
Yeah. I think we had, and if we do end up paying this out in 23, the funds are still available. My assumption was that they would not, by the time everything is submitted, we'd be into fiscal year 24. Okay. Looking at our major business incentives, we do have several that are still outstanding. We do anticipate the majority of these will be paid out by the end of the fiscal year 23. We do feel that the Texas A&M Civil and Industrial Engineering Program will have their final payout in fiscal year 24. And then looking at our sales tax revenue, we have collected more than what was budgeted. Reminder that we always budget conservatively on the revenue side and on the expenditure side. And so we have collected $431,000 in excess of what has been budgeted. Those funds will roll to the fund balance, and we will use those in future year budgets.
Do we know what contributed to the variance of 150,000 in April?
Yeah, I think that was during our spring break. That was the reporting for spring break. And I don't know exactly what specific industry it came from, or I don't have those details, but we can do some analysis and let you know.
It's almost double any of the other differences, so it would be interesting to see what's driving that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's spring break. We had a phenomenal, the best record ever in spring break attendance in the region, to include hotel stays, and then obviously spending in the sales tax area.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yep.
best ever in the history. Yep.
So that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
And I just wanted to make one note regarding the marina. I believe we did approve $6.5 million for arena improvements at the
Yes.
last meeting, and that's, of course, not shown. I don't believe you showed that in the balance.
Exactly. I think that because these are for April, that was approved, I believe, in May. And so
yeah,
it will
so that is
reflect
a
it.
$6.5 million less in
Exactly.
that fund. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And on the marina, our marina manager is here, Jonathan Atwood, but I think, is it tomorrow at City Council? We're going to take the contract for the piers, A, B, C, D, and L replacement. So that's a long-awaited $20 million project. The permitting entities, the state government, took some time. Jonathan, we were ready, but we had to wait for those permits. So big excitement for that marina. I think the whole thing, I think, yeah. But that work will be done. It's well-designed, and it's the best pier and dock systems that are out there. Good contractors, too, doing the work, so.
And speaking of that, our next item, number 3, is authorizing appropriation expenditure of an additional amount of $2.4 million from the unreserved fund balance of the seawall fund for the replacement of ABC, DL, and dredging project for a total cost of $17.4.
And we will be taking that item to council if we can get the additional funding approved by Type A.
Right, okay.
So what's happened on this is we have open bids on this. We did get competitive bids. We got 4 bids. The low bid looks like it's a real competitive bid. Unfortunately, it exceeds what we had in the available budget. So this item is to request an additional $2.4 million to be appropriated from the seawall fund balance to cover the additional cost on this.
Any questions of the superintendent or Mr. Edmonds? So you were a little short on money, but we're going to save you.
May I go?
Go.
Okay. First, I just wanted to thank you for all the information on the bidding. I think that was really very helpful to look at all of that and understand where those bids were coming from and the companies that had submitted. What is the additional $3 million that's needed? Because Callan Marine's at 19.4, and the additional 2.4 that's being requested would take this project up to 22.4. So what is that additional $3 million for?
Well, we've had design cost, and then we've got staff costs for the administration. This is an estimate of what we need. It's an estimate of additional 2.4. So
2.4
there are
not
additional
approved.
costs over and above just the construction.
They're at
Cost.
19.4.
What she's questioning is what you sent us actually exceeds 17.4, and that does not include the dredging, correct? Or it does include the dredging? The material said the low bid was 19 million.
Well, I guess I was saying that there's the 15 from us and the 5 from the Marina Capital Fund. So there's 20 that's been approved. their base came in at 19, or bid came in at 19.4.
So,
Yeah, so for construction, there was roughly 17.5 before, which, if you looked at the CIP page, so, and I'm not sure that's in your pack, it's in mine.
no.
So, the 17 point,
Excuse me, Jeff, it is page 24, Ms. Summers, on the packet, is that's the excerpt from our capital budget. And you can-
Okay,
right,
that's
so
where
we were
that's the
budgeting
Yeah.
17.5 essentially for the construction. And as you can see, the bids have come in north of that, so.
It was the additional 2.5 million for the design, engineering, administration costs that I hadn't seen. So thank you for
Right,
that
yep.
clarification. Appreciate it.
Any other comments? I would entertain a motion for an additional 2.4 million.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the 2.4 from the unreserved fund balance. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, no. Hearing none, I think it passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we're looking for a kind of general presentation, not today, I don't think.
Yes, I was going to provide a quick update.
Okay.
So my name is Jonathan Atwood, Corpus Christi Marina Manager, and I want to thank you all for approving that right now. So we are moving forward. Like Peter said, that'll be going to council for approval of the construction contract so we can get this much-awaited project started. And we're looking at hopefully starting that early fall. I'd like to try to get past Labor Day. If y'all go down there, you'll see that L dock was already demolished. It's basically 2 years ago now. And we've cleared most of the boats off of A and B dock. And those will be the first 2 docks demolished with phase 1 of this project. Once that's done, then we'll move into dredging that area and putting those docks back, which will really change the face of the marina down there, and I'm looking forward to that. We did receive, under the bid process, the company that I was interested in having for the docks. So the concrete floating docks will be state-of-the-art, and I think everyone in the marina, everyone there is really looking forward to that. And I want to provide an update on the rest of these projects, because we do have several projects that are in the lineup. One is the Cooper's Boater Facility, which I am currently missing the kickoff meeting for, but no worries there. So the design contract was approved for that, so we're moving forward with the Cooper's Boater Facility, and we went ahead and combined that with the resurfacing of the L-head parking lot, since it's all in the same landmass there, and we're going to go ahead and get that done at the same time. So those are basically 2 projects that are moving forward with design.
You've selected an architect or a
Yes.
design team for that? right?
Yes, Richter Architects will be designing that facility and subbing out the parking lot resurfacing. And then we also have the boat haul out office retail facility, which is directly across from the Corpus Christi Yacht Club there. That's another design contract that we have, has been accepted by council moving forward with. And so that kickoff meeting is actually tomorrow. So both those projects moving forward, and I'm happy to say so. And then we've got the boardwalk project as well. We are right at the 100% design on that project, and currently working with Harrison's Landing and some of the other stakeholders in that area to move forward with that project. Once we get the design completely nailed down, and we may have another extra piece of that project that we're trying to work out with Harrison's Landing in their corner there. And then we'll move forward with going to bid for that project. We do have to get a permit for that project, and we're hoping that will be a much faster process than the one we just went through for the docks.
Maybe the Development Services Liaison could help you.
With the Corps of Engineers? Now I know they're underpaid.
Well, we're going to hopefully move that forward quicker than the dock project, but we'll see. I've got a few phone numbers in my pocket now that I will try to call regularly, but much like every other entity, people change quickly through that. That area as well. So, and then a further project is we're looking at doing a master plan for the marina as well. And so we're going to try to move that forward here pretty quick. Peter just proved that for us here, and so we'll be going to council, I think in a week or two, to on the 27th. Thank you. To get that contract approved.
That's great.
So we have a lot of projects moving right now, a lot of big projects, and we're excited about it and staying busy. Any questions I can answer?
Only thing I've been questioned on, I'm not sure if it's you, sir, or whether it's Park and Rec, but is the Selena statue up on the bay? They say that it could use a little TLC.
Right, on the seawall?
Right.
Right, so we're taking to council a contract to do lighting improvements along the seawall. There's, by the mirror doors is the lighting. And Jonathan actually knows about this as well. So lighting outside, inside, below the mirror doors. That does include the Selena monument. Yeah.
They
And
acted
mirror
like
door as
maybe
well.
it just needed some painting.
It's going to get a
and
complete
cleaning,
makeover,
yeah,
right? There's
right.
some rope lighting that's failing and
Right.
falling. There's a sound system that doesn't work, that will be restored, and then a painting and a cleaning.
A
Yes.
huge number of people. that
Oh,
go
you
to
should,
that.
I drove by this weekend several times. It's packed down
Huge.
there. Yeah.
Yes, very
Right.
much so. And Parks and Rec does maintain that daily with pressure washing and try to keep up with
Right.
the paint and anything else, and Marina helps out any way
It
we
gets a
can
lot
there,
of
so.
use, I can see.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
So,
you.
All righty.
Anything else? Mr. Jimenez? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Now the budget. Oh, I'm sorry. So number 4 is we discussed in type A, type B, the possible changes, and I assume that we'll just skip this item for now and have it brought back to us at the next meeting with the appropriate changes to the bylaws and policies.
Yes, ma'am.
So number 5, presentation and discussion of the Corpus Christi Business and Job Development Corporation budget. There you are again.
Good afternoon, board members. Eddie Houlihan, Office of Management and Budget. Let me pull this presentation up. This is the Type A proposed budget. It's, the city accounts for this area in 3 different funds: the Seawall Fund, the Arena Fund, and the Business and Job Development Fund, which no longer receives any sales tax and hasn't since 2018. But we're wrapping up the dollars in there and the commitments that have been made. So from a high level, the Seawall Fund, same format here. with-
Now, it continues, just to be clear. I mean, it's just the economic development sales tax that, and
What?
just the economic development sales
Yeah,
tax and
that's correct.
housing has gone away. The
On
other.
The
funds-
Arena and Seawall remain.
Right.
For a little bit longer, correct. So the Seawall area, same setup format as the B, the 22 actuals is an audited numbers and the 23 budgeted and estimate, and then the FY24 proposed. So in the Seawall Fund, FY22, we ended the year with 18,668,000. And then in FY23, the estimate is that we will end FY23 with a little over 18,963,000, almost 19 million. And then in FY24, we're proposing quite a dollar amount of additional projects transferring to CIPs, and the expected ending fund balance at the end of '24, 8,777,000. A little more detail. Of course, this is mostly sales tax. The 1/8% budgeted in '24 at 8,895,000. A little bit of interest income, 6,634,253, for total revenues of 9,529,000. Then in the expenditures, Seawall administration of 10,000, the general fund support 150,558, and then the transfer to the Seawall debt service. Last debt payment is in FY26 in this area. 2,860,000 for the debt
One
service.
sec.
Okay.
On the debt service, I ask you this every year. Do you remember what the remaining principal balance on that is?
Geez.
And is that a fixed rate or is it floating?
No, I think it's
So it's based off of the bond, whatever the bond series is that matures within that year. So we only have 2 more years on it, so I'm gonna make an estimate that probably your principal balance is probably about $4 million.
Yeah. And then
4 to
it's
5
gone.
million, and then it's gone, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
That's a good point. So we'll have a couple of years without that.
And then the last line item there is the transfer to the Seawall CIP. And I have more detail on the 16,695 and 24. In 23 there, the 3.5 million that's in the amended budget, that is for the water garden fountain restoration. that has been approved by the board and also approved by council. The $5.9 million estimate includes the 2.4 that was just discussed. So when it goes to council, if it's approved by council, then the budget will increase to 5.9 also.
Could we change that slide, please, to the next slide?
Go back a slide.
No, I think it's the next slide, isn't it? That has the projects on it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is all of the active projects, what we consider active projects, and with the little current status report there to the right. I don't know if anybody has any questions or on any of those particular projects.
Mr. Wilson?
You did include in the, I think, in the proposed CIP budget, the additional 2.4 million that we just approved for the marina, right? Okay.
It'll come in now.
Yeah, it'll come in this current year after it goes through council. So the total active projects are almost $48 million. A lot of investment in this area. This is the approved 23 CIP in the seawall fund. So you can see that when the 23 CIP was passed, we didn't have any more dollars transferred to that area. Did not propose any in 23. And you'll notice the amount transferred to CIP was $35,310,000 in 23, and then when we move forward for the proposed 24, you'll see an increase in that number of $5.9 million for the two areas, the fountain restoration and the docks, or pier, excuse me.
That's for the additional money for the water garden and for the docks?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Ms. Summers?
There's the Harbor Point East connectivity project on here.
Good.
Yes.
And I know it came up for a presentation several meetings ago, but I don't
A
recall
long time.
any other meetings or votes on it.
It's not funded.
No.
Has there been any work on that, or? No, Mr. Edmonds
The
left.
status of the port. Oh, it's in a long range.
So that one there, I met with, let's see, Jeff Pollock from the port, because we want to make sure they do their park, their Harbor East. I think it's about a $5 million project, and then once that's definitely established in terms of it's a go-forward project, we'll continue to resume in earnest our connectivity project. We have two there, the baseline bulkheading that has to take place. It's the only section that has no bulkhead. And then some treatment. Initially, it was like a boardwalk, but the more recent discussion is some type of connectivity to the Science Museum. And so probably about maybe 6 weeks ago, I met with Jeff just to see is the Port's Harbor East project still going forward. The funding source for that is the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation, the CDBG MIT, as we call it. And they were waiting on clearance from, I think the GLO is where the money originated.
Right.
Once they get clearance, which he expected to be this summer, then we'll know, and then we'll continue to move forward on our project. So
I would only bring up in that regard, they had been, when we were first discussed that project, the port was going to put the $5 million in. And
Right.
then they learned that it might be an eligible project for that.
With the mitigation?
Sort mitigation
Okay.
funding. And so, it'd be nice if they wanted to maybe participate more fully in the connectivity part of this.
Right.
Yeah.
So they could probably do that. If the CDBG MIT pays for it entirely, they may have additional monies they can help us
That
with.
they could put towards the connectivity,
Right.
yeah.
And they helped already by funding the parking lot reconfiguration at the Science Museum. They rebuilt the whole thing and actually added additional parking spaces at their expense, which is about $700,000, I believe.
That's great.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that'll come back to us at some point, but we're just leaving it as a possible project.
Right.
Correct.
And the seawall capital repairs are just kind of an as-needed, almost an IDIQ if something happens. There's no specifics on that, I don't believe. It's just.
I believe that's correct. Mr.
12.
Edmonds left me.
Yeah, I think as his assessment continues, if they find problems, I think he told us once.
Then the FY '24, where you see the detail of the proposed $16,695,000, the projects that are included in that for FY '24. Beginning with the Marina Boat Haul Out Facility, $7 million. The Cooper's Boater Facility of $4,450,000. Both of these were in last year. The Marina Boat Haul Out is increased by $1 million from what was there last year, and the Cooper's Boater Facility has increased by $570,000 from the prior year. Then the dredging on the People's Street T-head, that is a new project.
Let me ask a question. I'm pretty sure I know. So the water garden includes both the repairs to the water garden on Shoreline, the water feature on Shoreline? Or is that Shoreline Fountain? I'm a little confused. I thought those were two.
That's just the water, the fountain restoration, the 9.1 million. There was 5.6 million before, and we added 3.5 million.
Okay.
It does not include the.
So the 1.1 is the Shoreline.
That's
water
correct.
feature.
That's correct.
That's a shoreline water
yes,
feature
yes.
next
That's
to
done.
the American Bank Center
Yes.
on
Yes.
the bay side. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, two different projects.
Okay.
Then the dredging People Street T-head of the 220,000, that is a new project. Then, of course, there's the Marina Piers, which that'll be, the 2.4 passes through council, that'll be included in there. Well, it'd be this current year. Boardwalk repairs of $3,660,000. And then that parking lot resurfacing of $865,000, that is also a new project. And then lastly there at the bottom is the seawall capital repairs of $500,000 for the total of $16,695,000.
So I'm sort of anticipating, especially for the members that are gone and knowing the timetable to approve these, we may need Marina folks back and Mr. Edmonds to talk a little bit about some of these budgeted items, particularly those, you know, the Cooper's Boat Facility and the increase in the boardwalk, or the boardwalk, not an increase, I can't read the number, and the parking lot resurfacing, just to highlight a little bit more
Okay.
about those projects,
Okay.
what they are, for the next meeting.
Sure, we can bring that to you. All right, moving into the debt service. I won't spend a lot of time here. This is just transfer from the seawall operating fund into the debt service. And then there's a little bit of interest income here, and then turning around and making the expenditures, making the debt service payment. Proposing that revenue of $2,860,000, and of course expenditures of pretty much the same amount, $4 to $2,860,144. Then moving into the arena, similar revenues. So this in this area, we 22 fund balance. We ended the year with 12.4 million. In FY23, the estimate is we will end the year with almost 10.1 million, 10,097,000. And then in the FY24 proposed, 9,347,000 in revenues and 9,811,000 in expenditures for fund balance at the end of 9,633,000.
But again, is that less the 6.5 we approved last month?
Yes, that is in the current, yes, that's in the budget.
You've already included it? The
Yes.
9.6 is with
Correct.
that included?
It's
Okay.
in the
Thank you.
11,316,000, that is
Thank you.
included in there.
The 12. Mhm.
Okay.
What's confusing to me is it doesn't say amended budget. I would think the amended budget should have shown the additional 6.5. That's why I'm putting.
So the original budget was 4,816,000. The second column there, the expenditures, 4,816,000. And the amended
I
budget
see.
is,
You're right.
yeah.
You
is-
got it.
Yes,
I was looking at the wrong one. Punch drunk.
a lot of numbers.
Thank you.
Moving into the revenues, most of it is sales tax, similar to seawall, $8,895,000, the same number is budgeted in the seawall fund for the eighth of a cent. And then interest income of $452,000 for total revenues of $9,347,000. And a little more detail on the expenditures. Again, the $10,000 for administration, the $400,000 for arena maintenance and repairs. And then the general fund support of $144,000. The debt service payment is $3,523,000. And then you'll see a little more detail on these next two items coming up, but the transfer to arena CIP, $860,000, and there's a $6.5 million in the FY23 budget and estimated actuals. And then the transfer to visitor facility of $4,874,000. It's a large difference from FY23 because we didn't transfer any money to visitors last year for any capital projects. This was kind of in the transition from ASM Global to OVG, so there was quite a bit of money already there, so we needed to kind of make some progress on the projects that were already on the books. See a little more detail here in the next slide or two. Here's the $860,000. These are would be city managed projects. The arena doorway, walkway repair, $500,000, and then some access controls, $225,000. Spotlight platform of $75,000, and then Zamboni water filtration of $60,000 for the total of $860,000. The next slide is the detail of the transfer to visitors, which is where the arena operated by OVG is accounted for. So the first few items are pretty much similar to what we saw last year. The professional services is a management fee and an estimated amount for an incentive payment. And then the ice plant rental has went up a little bit from $182,000 to $230,000 for the hockey, and I think also they have some other events, ice skating events. The next three items are insurance, flood, windstorm, and property, which if you total those three, it's went up about a little over 9% for insurance. We see quite a bit of property insurance increases throughout the city. The IT allocate, which is IT support that's provided by the IT department here at the city of $249,000. Then those two areas there at the bottom, the arena co-promotion, you'll see in the next slide that actually they anticipate expending about $1,350,000, but we already have $825,000 that already is in the visitors fund from previous years' transfers. So we only need to transfer an additional $525,000. And you'll see some more detail of that in the next slide. And then capital projects of $3,415,000, which we also have some additional detail on in the slides to follow here.
One minute, Mr.
Okay.
Land. Ms. Summers?
On that windstorm insurance, I know a lot of carriers have pulled out of the market in offering windstorm. And I know it's been a headache for industries across the area. Has that actually been quoted, that 158?
I think it was included in the...
Yeah, we went to city council to renew our policy. We use a broker, Carlisle Insurance.
Okay.
So this is the incremental increase for these areas that are in
But
this fund.
That has been,
Yes.
okay, wow.
Yeah, we bought the insurance policy, I think it was in May.
May, yeah.
And that was for 12-plus months.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is a detail on the $1,350,000 that I mentioned for the arena co-promotion, and there's a listing of all the items expected in FY24. The Ice Rays, Islanders, Buck Days, some concert pro-promotion. the 20th anniversary of the arena, so they have some dollars in there for those events.
That's a pretty good amount there.
Yeah.
On ice?
Real big.
It's a lot. I mean, but this is subject to some oversight by the city. I mean, it's not
Right.
a absolute, yes.
Yeah, these are kind of budgeted estimates. at this-
Placeholders,
Yeah,
yes.
placeholders is a good word, yes, ma'am. We haven't
Okay.
done any work with OBG 360 on it yet.
And all of our arena co-promotion funds are approved by the city manager before they're
Yes.
given to
Yeah.
OPG.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Then the next slide has the detail of the 3,415 capital projects. We're this titled capital project, but you can see a lot of these items are, chairs and bicycle hoops, meeting tables. There is some suite refurbishment down at the bottom there.
Basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, the new company, OBG 360, is really doing a great job in trying to get some baseline fixtures in there. It's really was neglected for too long. So they want to replace, as an example, all the chairs in the convention center arena. A lot of them are mismatched, they're just old, and to make it look nice. Mm-hmm.
Forklift, forklift 200,000 there on the.
Just concerned about what the future prospects are for basketball.
Still good. We know that we're working with the university on them potentially building their own kind of arena, but that will be years, so we'll still be playing at the American Bank Center. We have a good relationship with the university.
Yeah, but I mean, are they continuing their games at the,
Yeah. At the American Bank Center?
for how long? When they build their own arena?
Well, but they have to design it and then construction, so you're talking at least 3 years, 3, 4, and I don't even think the funding, I don't know if the funding was secured through the legislative session. Probably more like 5 years,
Right.
Heather's saying,
Okay.
yeah. So it'll be good.
So I mentioned the one complaint that I've heard a lot is the parking situation and I mean, this is not us necessarily, but people have said, why isn't there some kind of fast lane or electronic? It's very slow.
They're working on that, in fact, yes.
Incoming is very slow. I mean, it's people taking your money one at a time.
Right, so unfortunately, the city didn't acquire the parking or the properties next to the American Bank Center.
No,
but
this
it-
is on your side.
Right, so some of those complaints may be from that private sector parking, but OBG 360 is working now where when you buy your ticket, your parking will be purchased with that online, however you buy it.
Okay.
So it will be that fast track thing. You won't have to do any exchange of money. You would just show them your proof of paid parking that's coming.
Okay,
Yes.
because the
Right.
rodeo people were like,
Yeah.
they were like, man, I
Right.
couldn't get in here.
Yeah, that's coming, but some of those comments may be from those lots we don't control.
No, these were
Yeah.
folks that had VIP stuff.
Okay, good, yeah.
And the next slide is the arena debt service. This is same scenario as seawall debt service where the money's transferred from the operating fund, $3,523,000 transferred over with the interest income of $132,777, and then the debt, turn around and make the debt payment of $3,523,000. And the last area is the Business and Job Development Fund, which is this, like I mentioned, no more sales tax goes into this fund. This is just, all the revenue is interest and expenditures of, projected in FY '24 of $1,125,000. It's a little more detail of that here in the slide following. So we're trying to, the fund balance is winding down here. We expect about a little over 88,000 at the end of '24. This is just the interest income. And then the expenditures. In the affordable housing area, which is Fish Pond, the Alma, and a little bit for home buyer assistance, we don't expect to expend any of that in FY '23. So we put that $670,560 into FY '24. Major business incentives, anticipate expending all of the dollars, and you'll see some detail of that, and with the $455 remaining being the Texas A&M Civil and Industrial Engineering Program. This is the detail of the affordable housing, the fish pond, the ALMA, and the 10,000 for the home buyer assistance. That totals the 670,000. In the major business incentives, you can see in FY23, we estimate to expend the 25,000 for the International Consulting Engineers, or ICE, and then the 100,000 expected to be expended in 23 for the Civil and Industrial Engineering Program, the remainder in FY24. In technology training for the Del Mar Foundation of the 53,415, and lastly, the Waterburger field upgrades, with I think most of that has been expended already, the 396,795.
So at some point in 2024, we will have paid out all the commitments for the economic sales tax, and we'll end up with a guess of 88,000, which we will need to figure out what to do with, right? So and then we can close that out.
Correct, yes.
Yes.
We attempted to do that this year.
I know.
Then we realized that we got to get those commitments.
Yeah.
They keep
But next
going
year.
on and on, correct.
Great.
All right, that's all I have with 10 by 40.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back next
Thank you all
month.
for your hard work. Is there any comments from Mr. Zanoni? Do you have a report?
No, just the same from the last one, which is, as you can see, we're working on the budget, so we'll be back to this board, type A and B, for final approval, and then I'll be presenting the budget on July 25th to the city council, the entire city budget.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I understand that one of the staff sitting on the front row is now the head of economic development?
Right, two roles, so she's the head of economic development and interim assistant city manager. So you got that right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, Heather.
Yes,
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody,
She's
for
doing a
your
great
hard
job,
work.
too. She's doing
Yep.
a great job, yes.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank y'all for sticking in there. These are always the worst ones.